Today's episode, we're going to be talking to Noe Leal. He's going to explain to us how hard or how easy it is to top in a very big tournament for Magic the Gathering. That's what this episode is going to be about. This is David with Geeks and Jocks, and let's jump into the video. So first of all, Noe, just introduce yourself and a little bit of background of where you're from and how you got into Magic.
So, hello everyone, my name's Noe Leal Jr. My MTGO handle is No_E_that_no, so Noe That Knows. Only inspiration is to Bernie, shout out to him for that. And I'm originally from Rio Grande City, Texas, and I actually moved to Denton for school, but most of my gaming experiences and stuff have been here in the Valley, especially with the Stronghold Games and also Kaboom Comics. And originally when I first started, I was playing at Millennium Star, I believe, from the Rio Grande City. And mostly that's everything about like who I am and stuff. Like I'm a graduate student. I used to work at the UTRGV and stuff, but like this is a hobby that I enjoy. I'm very competitive about and stuff like that.
A big shout out to Stronghold Games that was kind enough to provide us with this environment so we can do this interview. And so first of all, congrats.
Thank you.
I know this is not your only top 8, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit. First of all, tell us how you prepared for this tournament. I guess how you got into a tournament, you found out about it, and then what was the logistics to get to the tournament?
Okay, so pretty much how I heard about like the whole SCG 30K and stuff was that I was at Hunter Burden, and I was actually preparing for that event more with Crixus Stepchild Luris, and that's been like my pet deck and everything. But unfortunately, like the whole Luris ban happened, so like I panicked, and I already had the pieces for Murktide, so I went X3 drop over there. But I was still like trying to understand the deck and stuff because it's a totally different play pattern to what Shadow is. So I took some time. I started prepping on MTGO. I started prepping over there in Denton at my game store called Stellarfly. And what I found with the deck was that it's kind of like a pseudo control deck, and it does a lot of very interesting lines to where like Shadow does, where you want to put like cheap threats on the field and be able to disrupt your opponent to be able to finish off the game. And what I found with this deck was that it has a lot more 50-50 potential, and it rewards you for understanding the modern meta and understanding what's going on in the field and stuff like that, having to be sharp on what little techniques to do and stuff, because like I will not lie to you, it's not a deck that you could pick up on the spot.
It's not. It has so many plays that you can do, especially because it's a very reactive deck too.
Yes, exactly. Like people try, like at first I thought it was an aggressive deck when I was playing with Hunter Burden, but then afterwards when I started playing with it, it feels more like a control deck than anything else. Like how you mentioned, like you want to play your threat, and then you have your cheap counter magic, which is like counter spell, spell pierce. And the other thing that I've been liking a lot is Archmage's Charm. And I actually got the list from a MTGO grinder. His name's Juju Beans 2024, I think. That's his Twitter handle. And I saw the list. He topped 2 in the modern Super PTQ like 2-3 weeks ago. I've been a fan of 19 lands because you want to be able to do at least 4 spells on turn 4 because of the fact that you have counter spells, so you need to protect your threats and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, like that, it was like a lot of just science. Like I do want to say it's like science behind it, because like it does become like a low methodological approach to like, okay, like how does this deck function? What are the best matches for it? What are the worst matches for it? Things like that. And how I came to SCG was like I was spreading the news with Stronghold Games. Shout out to Merced for helping me get to there.
Big shout out. Big shout out.
Yeah, like without him, I don't know if I would have entered the event. He helped me get into it and stuff like that. And then we heard about the Modern Trials, which is where you 5-0 and you get the first 2 round buys. And I honestly, I was very confident with the deck already. I had like previous, like I was doing well in the local scene, and like I was asking questions, just dissecting people's brains about like the matchups and stuff like that, just to understand it better. So the week before the week of the Modern Trials, I told my friend Kale and Kyle like, hey, I'm taking this, and like we're like shadow buddies, death shadow buddies, like to ride or die and stuff. But I told him it's not good at the moment, and I did. And then Kale did mention, oh, if you top 8, I'm buy the Murktide list, and I told him get ready to buy the Murktide list because like I'm
it's
feeling
really
great.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm feeling great. Like I'm feeling hot.
Plus, you're a great. Honestly, I played against you a bunch of times. You are a great player, obviously, because you understand that extra layer of how to play, and I think that's very important.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Yeah.
All right, so how was your first day in this tournament? In this specific tournament, like I said, I know you already won another tournament, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the next question. But how was your first day on this tournament?
Oh, my first day.
Because how many people were there?
Oh, so the amount of people. Okay, so I'll start with the modern trial because I think that's where like the root of everything was. Because at the modern trial, I participated at the 1231, and there was at least like I want to say 300 players that participated in it. And I mean, I only lost one game that whole. I 5-0'd. I actually played Ryan, a good teammate and good friend of mine, in the last match to get the buys, and we went to game 3, and then I got the buys. So then day one happens. I want to say there was at least 960 players. Yeah, 960 plus players. It was full blast. Like I'm so glad about SCG being so prepared about like the vaccine cards and stuff like that, making sure that the players are healthy and like taking care of themselves and stuff like that. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was nervous because it was like, oh wow, this is my first big, not my first big event, but like where it was like 900 players, like 950 players, and I was kind of like in a little slump. I haven't been able to day 2 to a big event for a while. So I was kind of like, okay, like I'm feeling good, I'm nervous, like it's fine, and I was also battling a cold. So it was kind of like a mix of everything just happening, and I was just like, you know what, I'm here to have fun, I'm here to have a good time, I know what I'm doing, like I dialed up everything, and yeah, I met up with the squad, the first 2 rounds happened, I was just relaxing, needing to see if like the teammates needed anything. And then round 3 started. My round 3 opponent, I've seen him run like in the Dallas scene, the DFW scene, and I thought he was like on a different brew than what he was on with the Bring to Light. I 2-0'd, and then round 5, like I played Bring to Light, then Live Again. There was like so many different matchups. Like there wasn't one that was like, oh, it's so specific. Like the only one that I played redundantly was 4-color Money Pile or 4-color Yorion Pile. And that in itself, I was nervous about in day 1 because I didn't want to face that matchup right away, since it is a hard matchup for this deck.
Okay.
Because that deck just beats up on the fair decks, such as Murktide and stuff. But luckily, I was able to test a lot online and like just pick people's brains of like how to approach the matchup. And what I found was that in that matchup, a lot of people bring in dress downs a lot when it really doesn't do anything, because they are a control deck that they have cheap removal, they have counterspell, they have red.
Oh, they have very cheap removal.
Yeah, like they have everything, and like they have their creatures, but in reality, their creatures aren't really doing anything. Like you don't need dress down for them. Dress down is more for like blue white hammer and stuff, especially when there's like goblin decks like Merfolk and stuff like that. You can bring that in for sure. But in my perspective, I always saw the 4-color as like a control matchup because they do have control elements.
Yeah, they do. They do want to go late game.
Yeah, exactly. And like you just have to go underneath them. You just have to go underneath them with like spell pierce, holding up counter magic, presenting it. Even though if you don't have it, just present it so that way they could be aware of like, oh, maybe this guy does have it or this person does have it. And luckily, I was able to take the 2 4-color matches that I did day one. I took them to game 3 and won. So that's where I knew like, okay, like I'm running really hot today. Like I'm going to make day 2 for sure. And I made day 2 by playing my opponent in round 6, and it was against the 4-color matchup. So it was pretty much like one of those final boss moments.
Yeah. Okay. And then you made.
Yeah. And then I made day 2, and then like all the pressure relaxed and everything, because like the adrenaline's there, like you're having fun, but at the same time, like you want to concentrate, like be in the zone and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. So, can you break the deck down for us? I guess why did you chose this list, and what do you think is the best and worst matchups?
Okay, so what I see in this deck, it's a pseudo control deck, and pretty much you want to have your cheap threats to be able to play underneath any other things going on in the format. And I'm a big proponent of you shouldn't take a control, like a legit control deck of like Teferi's, 5-mana Teferi, stuff like that, because the games go long, and like you want to be able to win your games 1 and 2. And this, I feel like this deck has that approach of where even if you play like some random deck that's not even part of the meta, you still have game for it because of the fact that you're being proactive and stuff like that. And like how I said earlier, it's kind of like a pseudo control deck.
Yes.
It has a lot of elements to it. I mean, you run 4 balls to help close out the game and stuff. Like, you're adding pressure. Ragavan is, I want to say, like the control finisher, because control has the tendency of having to do like prismatic ending for removal and stuff. So they can't, and being sorcery speed, so they can't really deal with Ragavan. And Murktide is the, here's my 8/8 flyer, deal with it, or you're gonna lose 2 turns.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But
it's a big clock.
Yeah, exactly. And like how I said, like I was always like a Shadow player at heart and stuff. But Shadow hasn't been producing numbers. Like, it felt after the Lurish ban, it just felt like everything was downhill afterwards. Like, it wasn't really having that longevity against the four color decks or other fair matchups. And I didn't want to be in the train of, I wish I played a different deck. So I was like, you know what, let me play the best deck, which I believe is Murktide, because it just has game against everything.
That was gonna be my next question. So you do think that this is the best deck right now?
Yes.
But I think that Yorion, 4 colors, is the best deck right now.
Oh.
Because my reasoning is that it's so cheap to play every spell that it's like, it's not even fair, you know?
Yeah. No, I do agree with you on that. I do agree that 4 color Yorion piles, Murktide, and Crashing Footfalls. Any Cascade decks are the pillars of the format right now. And if you have game against 2 of them, you're good. But I don't think any deck has game against all 3. Where I believe Murktide has game against every deck in the format. And the issue that I saw with 4 color Yorion pile is like they have issue with like the Living End matchups. Okay. And I always believe that Living End is the secret best deck of the format. Because like if people don't respect it, it's just gonna run over the place.
You have to have it in check.
Yes, exactly. Okay. You need to have your sideboard pieces, even main board pieces, and stuff.
That's where we go into the sideboard question. What was your sideboard, I guess, formula for this tournament, specifically for this tournament?
Okay, so for the sideboard, I actually have. I respect the Cascade stuff so much, like especially against Rhinos. I have 2 Engineer Explosives, 2 Fluster Storms, a Spell Pierce, and 2 Mystical Disputes just for like the Cascade stuff. Just because they're so hard to interact with, and you want to be able to play like cheaply with them. Relic of Progenitus is for any graveyard hate or even against the Mirror. I'm a big proponent of believing that Relic is good in the Mirror matchup, because if you control their graveyard, it's so hard for them to do anything. Like, their Unholy Heats are basically a shock. They can't really play Murktide. Darcy is the 1/1 and stuff like that. And the Blood Moon, I have a Blood Moon and Magus of the Moon split, mostly because Blood Moon is still okay, but Boseiju really like changed that formula, because now like every green deck has Boseiju where you can't counter the channel spells.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So Magus of the Moon is just like a hedge against that. And I also noticed that if you have 2 Blood Moons in your, like 2 actual Blood Moons in your sideboard, there's a tendency to over sideboard it against like blue-white control, 4 color, any other fair mid-range stuff. And that kind of like pushes you back, because you still need the mana to play your spells.
Yes.
Like if you're able to slam it and win, like it puts you so far ahead if you have pressure on the board. But if you don't, you're not really doing anything. I
guess that's where the Ragavan comes in too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they have to. Your sideboard pieces also have to help you forward your game. It's not only so that your opponent doesn't do anything. Yeah, you know that's the best case scenario. But the optimal scenario is like where your opponent can't do anything, and it also helps you to move forward. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, and the fair matchups, like that's where it shines. Oh, and then going back to like the mirror and stuff, Mystical Dispute is a house against the mirror. Jace, the Mind Sculptor, is pretty good too. I only have one of because I don't think it's good in the moment to have at least two. I've seen some lists with at least two or even Chandra Torch of Defiance. I'm still going to test that one out. I'm not too sure about it because this deck kind of plays on the opponent's end step. So you kind of want to be able to do that still with your Planeswalkers. And Jace just gives you that ultimate value of like brainstorming.
Yeah.
Just getting,
it's a powerhouse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a powerhouse. And then the Fury is there for any like mana dorks or like any hammer decks and stuff like that. The same thing for Dress Down. I think Dress Down is maybe the top 15 cards of MH2 because of how much you could do, the complexity of it, of where you get rid of Urza Saga tokens for 2 mana and you draw a card, and any ETB effects you can put on the stack, kill, like nothing happens, and then there's like there's some people that like Dress Down in the mirror, but I don't like it because it doesn't do anything. But you could Dress Down a response to Murktide, and when it enters, it doesn't have the counters. It's just a 3/3. Yeah. But I wouldn't board it in the mirror.
Yeah, just for that, I wouldn't do either. There's so many other ways to get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's also good against Amulet Titan.
Yes.
Okay, like they get their 6/6. They pay 6 mana to get their 6/6 that does nothing on the turn. And then
because they're not able to make it half haste.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they can't look for the land that gives it haste, right?
Exactly. And then they also have a Cultivator Colossus, which is the power and toughness is equal to the number of lands. So the neat thing with Dress Down is that it takes away that ability. So once it ETBs, it dies. It does not do any effects. It's similar to like Walking Ballista, Spike Feeder also, Scourge of the Skyclaves, like anything that has XX for the power toughness, it just dies once it touches board.
Yeah, okay. So let's do a little bit of throwback. When did you started playing Magic?
So I started playing Magic roughly around 2014 when it was the Return to Ravnica and Theros set. Yeah, that should be like around 2014. Yeah, and I actually came across Magic when I was in high school. It was my junior year, I believe. A buddy of mine just showed me like, hey dude, do you want to play this game? I'm like, oh yeah, what is it? And he showed it to me and I was like, oh dude, this is cool. Like I want to learn more about it. And we would go to one of our, he wasn't my teacher at the time. His name's Pete Castillo. He's a criminal justice teacher there at Rio Grande City High School. I don't know if he's still there anymore, but like we would go to his class and be playing all the time and stuff like that.
Okay, pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So when did you decide to go a little bit more serious? Because I know for a fact that before this tournament, obviously, you were trying to get into bigger tournaments. Mm-hmm. When did you decide, I'm good enough, or I want to do this a little bit more serious? Mm-hmm. When was that change from like a casual player to a more serious player?
Okay, so I've always been competitive ever since I was like little. So when I started playing Magic, at first like just casual fun and stuff, learning it and everything.
A lot of Magic Commander.
yeah. Just like a lot of fun stuff. And where I started getting competitive was when I went to a PPTQ qualifier in Corpus. I don't remember the store name, but it was back when I was playing in Rio, and like I went with a bunch of friends there. I almost top 8. It was the standard format. I almost top 8. I think it was like half a year or like a couple months into playing Magic. I almost top 8. So like that, like I was just like, you know what, dude? Like I want to like get there one day and stuff. And then most of the years happened, and like I was busy with school and stuff, school work, and I started learning about Modern. Started getting into Modern, and I remember Kaboom Westlaco had a PPTQ qualifier, and I remember playing against Percent Daniel. He's known as like the player here in the Valley and stuff because he's had Pro Tour invites and stuff like that. And we played in the finals, and we went to game 3 of the PTQ. He beat me, unfortunately, and like at that moment, that's where I was like, you know what, dude? Like this is the best games of Magic I've had. If I could be able to compete with this guy, I want to be able to see how much more I could go. I remember messaging him later, saying thank you for the matches and stuff like that, and like hopefully I could like rival him in some way. Just like little kid wanting to be better and stuff like that. Yep. And yeah, like that's how pretty much my most of my competitive scene started happening, and it just started rolling, and the Stronghold Games started having sponsorships and stuff like that. And luckily, my win at TCG Con in Corp, knowing Galveston, gave me that edge to get sponsored by them and stuff.
Of course. You want to talk about that tournament too?
Oh yeah, TCG Con Galveston.
What was the format?
Modern. It was modern.
Okay.
Yeah, it was modern. It was like one of the new events that was happening like post-COVID. Well, I mean, it's during COVID still.
We're always going to be in COVID.
Yeah, like it's gotten better, right? But that was so fun. Like I went with a bunch of buddies here, and I was on Grixis Death Shadow with Luris. Yeah, that was the best deck in that turn when it was still legal with Luris, and I think I won like a good clean 6-0 or something like that. The deck was running great. I was making great decision making, and it was weird because they didn't do like a playoff system. So it was just like, okay, just play it out.
Didn't the tournament start like super late?
Yeah, I started like at 11 or 12. It was super.
Yeah, I remember the complaints.
Yeah, yeah, it was bad, but it was still like a good time because like the friends were there and everything. Yeah. Got to chat with some people. There were some good competitive players.
But you beat all of them.
Yeah, I want to say all of them, but yeah, it was fun there. It was fun. That was like my legit first like competitive scene that I won. So like that just ignited my spark to like, you know what, like I should keep continuing.
Keep going on. Mm-hmm. And now I'm gonna obviously Magic related, but personal questions. What is your favorite set that you played just standalone, like draft or sealed or like a pre-release event? What has been throughout your Magic history? What has been your favorite set?
So funny enough, I haven't really done a lot of sealed events. But the one that comes to mind is Theros.
Theros.
Yeah, like the original Theros, because like that was my first ever actual like form set and stuff. And I just like the limited environment, just like mono green. Dumb stuff like you're a beast, like here's my 5/5 beater for 4 mana and stuff like that.
Yeah, it makes it kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
Like having the constraints breeds creativity, right? And you also get to play with cards that you wouldn't be able to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Normally. Yeah. It depends on what you pack, I guess. And what is your favorite format?
Oh, modern.
Yeah. I knew that one.
I
kind of knew that one. But what do you think about Pioneer? I guess because like Pioneer is coming in strong.
Yeah, I'm actually excited for Pioneer. I haven't really gotten into it right now, but I do have the pieces for Blue Red Phoenix, which kind of feels to the play style of this.
Yes.
I kind of do want to like venture into more Pioneer because I do know that.
But that one, I don't think it will be more control-y than this because like that one needs to go active.
Exactly.
That one needs to go aggressive.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, and the last question: what is your favorite card of Magic and why?
Death Shadow. Death Shadow because I mean that card is a build around card. You have Thoughtseize, you have fetch lands, you have so many things to do with it. It feels like a legacy deck.
Yes.
That it's so mana efficient. It's so mana efficient. You on turn 3 you're playing 3 1-drops. And you already disrupted like the opponent's plan with like 2 Thoughtseize or 1 hand disruption spell. So
plus I think also that it's obviously not for a novice, it's not for a beginning player. Because when you first start playing, you want to end up all your games at 20 life. You don't want to lose any life, right? Mm-hmm. And this is a deck that, it doesn't do that.
Yeah,
right?
you want to use your life
as a resource.
Exactly, yeah. And like that's the same thing with this deck too, is like you could fetch shock and everything. This deck is just as complex as Shadow. Yes. I honestly believe this deck is more complicated than Death Shadow.
Are you actually?
Yeah,
so? Okay.
I really do believe so. Just because with Shadow you have like an aggressive tempo plan, disruption the first 3 turns. This one you're kind of setting up to control of what's going on in the field while being disruptive.
Okay. All right, Noe. Well, thank you so very much for giving us this interview. This interview was supposed to be scheduled when you won that other tournament. Remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. But thank you for driving down here and doing this interview. I'm so happy that you're doing great. I know we're gonna hear more good things about you because I know you as a person and as a player, and you're just all well-rounded. You're a well-rounded person, a great player, and I just hope to see more of you in the future, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Big shout out again to Stronghold Games for letting us do this interview under premises. Also, want to thank our sponsors, Dex. Link is in the description of this video. Also, all the social medias for Noe are going to be linked in this video. And thank you for following this interview. Want to remind you, if you haven't subscribed already, do so, and comment, like, and share if you like the content that we make. That's it for today's video, and we'll see you in the next one.